Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Fit Chicks Chat. My name's Laura Jackson,
And I'm Amanda Quinn.
and on today's episode, we are talking about self-love. Aww.
Yeah. Yay. Self-love is so important, and I think, is an important topic for us to talk about because sometimes we forget about how much how important that is, and how important it is to be gentle and kind to ourselves and to
Especially,
be loving to ourselves and graceful, especially
yeah,
during
and
any
especially
kind of
because
health or weight loss journey.
that's just it. I think it's really, really, really important to talk about this from a coaching standpoint, whether it be you're coaching yourself on your health journey, your weight loss journey, or you're coaching other people. I think I think it's really underestimated, and I think most people don't talk about it or think it really has anything to do with achieving your weight loss goals, but it has
Mhm.
everything to do with getting to your goals. So if we don't talk about it, it's like you're missing out on this huge, important piece that you either need to coach your clients on, or they're struggling in silence with, or you need to coach yourself on, and you know it's something, or you don't even know. You might be like, why, I've never even thought about my self-love. Like, do I have self-love? Do I not have, what even is self-love? Right? So I
Yeah.
think it's just really important that we talk about this, especially as people are trying to make changes to their health, their habits. If you don't have self-love, it's going to be really, really hard.
hmm No, I completely agree. I think, and it's the one thing where, sometimes, especially when we're going through any kind of health journey, if we're just starting out on any kind of a journey or a weight loss journey, depending on what your goal is, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes when we're going through that process, it doesn't even have to be that. Like, think about even when people are trying to gain muscle to do competition or things like that. It's, it can be so easy to trap ourselves in this place where we're being negative towards ourselves or being really critical or really just mean to ourselves
Yeah.
about the process, especially when we hit any kind of a roadblock or what they call a plateau or things like that, where if we feel like we're not making the progress that we expect or that we have seen in the past, that all of a sudden we can just spiral into this really negative place and start really almost punishing ourselves in a lot of ways. So I think this self-love conversation is important because we need to understand how to do it and why it's going to affect you either positively or negatively on your journey.
Completely. So let's start off by talking about kind of what is self-love, because it's a term that we hear a lot, right? It's always talked about on social
Totally.
media. It's always, you've got to practice self-love. But then I even know for me, I was kind of like, what really is self-love? Like, I get it's loving yourself, but what does that comprise of? Like, what do we actually do that is self-love? So it's
Mhm.
kind of broken into three major components. So the first component of self-love is self-awareness. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you guys know how much we love talking about awareness, especially
Yes.
self-awareness.
Yes.
But it starts off with
Self-awareness is
really,
so important.
oh, totally. It's like so many of us don't know ourselves. We only know ourselves in relation to other people, but we never take time to really tune in. And that's what self-awareness really is about. It's about tuning into your feelings, your needs, what you need, not what somebody else is telling you that you need or how you should act, or it's really just around understanding yourself. And I always think one of the easiest things or one of the best actions to do to start to become aware of yourself is force yourself to watch yourself, almost like you're watching a movie, right? Like just watching your be like, isn't that, and I always say, isn't that interesting? Because it's the way that for me, I can practice self-awareness with self-compassion, right? With compassion, I'm not
Mhm.
judging myself. I'm just looking like, isn't that interesting how every time like my in-laws come over, I end up binge eating, right? Like it's like this interesting, like just watching yourself and just if you can do that, you'll start to see a lot of patterns. Understanding, like I did this exercise, which was so interesting. I did this exercise about a year ago, and I had to write down all of the things that I really like. And do you know how hard that was for me? I was like, I don't, my first response was, I don't know. Like, But I started to
Right.
go through my day, like, what are things I truly, truly like that truly makes me happy? And one of them was coffee. Like, I love coffee. And my
Yeah.
first coffee of the day is like, it's something I truly look forward to. I enjoy it. I have it's like I just love the way it tastes. I love the mug. I love all of it. Like, and when I really boiled it down and wrote down all the things that I truly like that really bring me joy, there was like five of them, and they were very simple things. But there were so many things that I was doing that I thought I liked, but when I actually was spending time looking at that, I'm like, no, I actually kind of only like that because my friends like that, or because my partner likes that. So it's just a very that's a very interesting exercise to do. But the first thing is just, again, it's just becoming aware of your feelings. What stresses you out? What do you do when you're stressed? What do you do when you're happy? What makes you happy? Right? Like, understanding all of those things will start to help you become aware of what are the things that you are doing that are loving to yourself, and what are the things that are not loving to yourself.
I just want to add to that too. You said earlier, doing things that are for you and not because someone else is telling you. And I think that is such a powerful, powerful statement and such a powerful thing to think about because how many times in your life have you heard someone say to you, well, you should do that. You should do that. You should take a break. You should go on vacation. You should stop working. You should not work
Yeah.
out so much. You should do this, right? And there's so many people that are trying to place all their shoulds and their ideas because that's what they do in their life. If that doesn't fit for you, and if it doesn't bring you joy, and if it doesn't feel like that's what you actually want or need, then just know that that's their should and that's not yours. And I think I just really want to like present that idea to everybody listening because I think that that's so important because I know I hear it all the time in my life, day to day, what I should not be doing, what I should be doing. And I'm like, I should just do what feels good for me.
But I
Right. And
also do
I
it to
have to be, but
myself.
it's totally, but it's like, it's also being aware of it and being aware of like, okay, but am I doing this because I feel like I have to, because I feel like I should do it, or because I want to. And when we start really looking at it and almost breaking it down into like those three columns, like if you're like, okay, on a day-to-day basis, I don't know, I eat every night before bed, let's just say. And then it's like, should I be doing that? Should I not be doing that? Or, and like, is it leading towards my goals? But you have to be thinking about it from the lens of like, how does this react to me? And from like a self-love standpoint, how does this feel to me? Not to anyone else. It doesn't impact their life, right? Unless it's like
Yeah.
a direct impact. But I mean, generally speaking, I just really wanted to present that idea and just kind of hit that idea home of like, if what feels good for you, if someone's saying to you, well, you should have a bubble bath every night because that's going to help you relax. And you're like me, where I'm
I don't
like,
like
I don't
bubble
like
baths.
baths at all. I really don't. They actually make me feel nauseous. Like when I get into a hot tub or anything, I actually feel like I'm going to throw up. Um, and it's not because I think that they're germy, which they are, but also because I just don't like the heat and stuff. But I mean, that whole concept, right? If someone said to me, "Well, you should do this because it's gonna help you relax." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not what I need." And so just really being aware of that, I think is a really important thing. So I wanted to
But
kind of
that's the
like
thing I
present
think
that
is
thought.
also that's really, really challenging because, you know, w- we work with a lot of women, right? Like, from
Mhm.
around the world. And the conversations and the things that come up are just so fascinating to me because, you know, some of our students are in their 40s, 50s. And when I ask them even this question about awareness, they're like, I've never even thought about this. I just have always followed like the trajectory of what I thought I should be doing, or I thought was, we've kind of the mainstream of you go to school, you get married, you have a baby, you do, da, 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 right? And then taking a
Yeah.
step back and being like, just looking at your whole life and what you want and what you don't want, and how you react towards things, and how you engage in things, what stresses you out versus other people, what are your dreams? Like, everyone's so different. But if we don't take a step back and just become aware of our own actions, thoughts, feelings, all of those things, we're never going to truly get to the goals that we want, right? And especially when it comes to weight loss. So, self-love, if you think of it like it's like the umbrella, right? There's like self-love, and it's like that's the top of the umbrella. And then underneath it, the first thing that leads into that is self awareness. Then the
Yeah.
second thing, though, is self-care. So self-care follows self-awareness. So if we're not aware, first of all, of our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, especially when it comes to our weight loss journey, how that's showing up, what we're doing that's either contributing to us not getting to our weight loss goals or moving us towards them, then we can't then start to do the practices that we need to do to make that goal a reality, right?
Mhm.
So I always think of it like, I don't know, maybe it's not an umbrella, but it's like the steps into it. So
It's like
self-love
a
is the
ladder.
main thing we
Yeah.
want, but you can't have self-love without being aware of yourself and what you need that makes you happy. And then we have to have the self-care, which is the actual taking those steps to meet your needs. So this could be the things of, again, getting enough sleep. It could be fueling your body with nutritious foods. It could be de-stressing, journaling, right? Taking time out to do activities you enjoy. Like all of those things are different for every person, but we don't know what our own self-care is if we don't have self-awareness
Yeah.
because it looks different for everybody.
Completely. No, I totally agree with that. We have to have it's like you can't have like the cart before the horse is what they say, right? Like you have to have the thing. You have to understand what that would look like for you so that you can then figure out what those actions could be for the actual self-care practices to taking care of
Yeah.
yourself.
And then the
Hmm.
third part of self-love, so self-love is self-awareness, self-care, and then also self-respect. And I think that this is a very hard conversation a lot of times with clients or with yourself because there are times that, and I know in my life, like I was not doing things that were respecting myself and
Hmm.
eating foods or having unhealthy boundaries with people or saying yes to things I really wanted to say no to because I felt like I quote unquote should. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's the whole idea of compromising your own well-being for the sake of others or society's expectations or whatever it is. But in order for us to have self-love, we also have to have respect for ourselves. And that really is around setting boundaries for yourself.
hmm. No, definitely. And I think that is it's going to be the one that's probably going to be one of the most challenging ones, I would say,
Mhm.
for a lot of people, especially because I mean, how many times have we, I think the boundary part is probably the hardest one, in my opinion, for me at least. I'm not speaking for everyone else, but I think the boundary one of like knowing that it's okay to say no to certain things. It's okay to, if you're at a birthday, let's just say you're on a weight loss journey and, for self love and self care and self respect. And then someone says to you, like, oh, we'll have some cake. And you're like, no, it's okay. Cause, you know that you're on this journey and you don't necessarily even really want it. But then they're like, oh, but you should have it because it's bad luck or whatever, like whatever the reason is. And then all of a sudden you feel like your boundary is being pressed. So then you'll say yes because you don't want to ruffle
Yeah.
feathers. You don't want to make other people feel upset. And so then you'll do things that are against your own free will, your own decision making, your own boundary that you've set. And I think that those are like the things, that's like a very, very small example, but it just gives you an idea behind how just these small things can shift away from you being in a self-love state, right? Because if all three of those things are not aligned, then there's a missing alignment piece towards your own care and self-love. So all three have to be in order, and you have to be thinking about all three with your decision making. Not to make it sound complicated, but all of them coexist together.
Well, yeah, and you know, I was someone who really struggled with self-love for a long time. Hence why I had an eating disorder and, I really hated myself. And you cannot like diet your way out of hating yourself. Even if you have, get to your goals, which I have done, you could still hate yourself. Like it has to be a part of the process because it makes it so hard if you don't love yourself to do the right actions that are in line with treating your body with respect and taking care of yourself and doing the things that are going to take care of your health if you don't love yourself, right? If you're doing it
Totally.
for like I don't even know, like when I think back, I don't know if it was I thought that I would be more loved by other people or whatever it was. I'm gonna need to ponder on that for a little bit. But it's just so fascinating because I just was at a place of so much self-loathing that every time I would try to go on a health journey or try to lose weight, I would always sabotage myself because I didn't love myself. So I would use food as punishment, right? I would use exercise as an enemy. So I would be like, oh my gosh, if I ate too much, then I'd go and over exercise. Like I was just constantly doing actions that were not self loving. So it really is about, I think, taking a step back and just starting first to understand, do you have self love? And if you don't, then starting to become aware of who you are and what you need, because no one is going to tell you what that is. And I always say this to our students, especially when they're coaching other people, right? It's like you have to involve your clients in the conversation ongoing all the time. You have to ask question after question after question because you don't know what's best for them. You know tools that can help them, but without them telling you, right, what they need or what they like or what they don't like, it's going to be really hard for you to come up with a plan that actually works because
Yeah.
you're going to be telling them to do things that they don't want to do or that aren't in line,
Mhm.
right? Like, so it's really, really important to have those help your clients to become self-aware. You do it for yourself, become self-aware, and then create the self-care plan and the boundaries and the self-love. And if you're struggling with self-love, it's definitely something I think dive deep into, whether it be with a program or a coach, to really help it like it come to the forefront. Now, the one thing I do want to say though, which I think is really interesting, and you and I have talked about this a lot online and offline,
Mhm.
about the whole idea of body positivity, because
Mhm.
a lot of people think that if you're on a weight loss journey, it means that you don't love yourself,
Right.
right? If you want to change yourself, it means you don't love yourself the way you currently are. So there's a lot of stuff with the body positivity movement that gets blurred where it's like, okay, well, forget weight loss, forget focusing on any of this stuff, just love yourself exactly the way you are. And if you want to change, then people say you're not being body positive, which I think is complete BS. You can love yourself and want to change. And I think, again, it's the only way to change is to love yourself. So it's
Mhm.
finding the love and the respect in yourself where you are right now while you're changing, which again does take work, right?
Yeah.
But it's the foundation of sustainable change because you're not going to stick to
It's
something if it doesn't feel good.
Well, I was gonna say it has to start at the foundation has to be I'm doing this while I'm loving myself. I'm loving myself through the process, if that's your goal. Like it's if your goal is weight loss, or if your goal is to change your body, your weight, your whatever, your composition, any of those things, you have to love yourself at the beginning of it. You have to love yourself and say, I'm doing this because I love myself and because these are the things that I choose for myself, and it's coming from a respectful place and not coming from a shameful place. It's not coming from a self um like a degrading place or anything. It's really coming from a place of like love and understanding and a deep appreciation for yourself. And then as you go through the process, you're loving every part of the process too, and you're loving yourself through the process and through the changes and through the shifts, but you're not doing it from a place of, when I get to the end, I'm going to love myself more, because that's not going to happen. You have to love yourself at the very beginning, and you're going to love yourself the same way as long as you continue to show yourself self-love and self-respect and all of those elements. If if you think that it's going to lead to this deeper love at the end, I think that you need to take a step back and start at the beginning again and say, how can I love myself the exact same way right now that I would love myself if I was to get to this place, if I was to reach this goal, when I reach this goal? How can I love myself now the exact same way? Because you have to have that continuation of love. Like you should never love yourself differently while you're going through any kind of shift or change. You should love yourself from day one.
Well, and this is where too, because it wouldn't be Fit Chicks Academy if we don't give you some actual practical ways to do this, because that's
Yes.
the one thing with self-love. It sounds very fluffy for a lot of people, right? It sounds like writing positive affirmations, like I love myself, I love myself. And that's not what mindset work is, and it's not what like it's a practice, right? So if you want to start this or you want to help your clients too, the first thing you have to do is, again, that self-awareness piece. So set aside some time for self-reflection. So even
Mhm.
if it is just, again, one area of your life, I always like to kind of pick one area, but let's say it's like, okay, what is my current relationship with food? Right? When I eat, do I eat mindfully? Do I stress eat? How do I react when I eat something bad? Do I calm myself down? Do I say negative things to myself? Like just getting yourself, just get quiet and just kind of pick one area and just really do some self-reflection and asking the questions like, why do you do those things? And be very honest without judgment. And that always is the first thing. So just set aside some time for some self-reflection, get a journal. I always think writing things out is way better than trying to think through them in your mind because you can't analyze it afterwards. And I look back at all my journals and I think too, it's so fascinating to me, like the way I used to think at certain seasons of my life, right? That was my
Mhm.
reality in that moment. And then it's like now looking at things, I'm like, oh, and then future Laura will look at things differently too, right? As you grow and evolve.
Mhm.
But
No,
really
for
just
sure.
having some time for self-reflection is the first step. And
Mhm.
then the second step is to create a self-care routine intentionally. So this is something that I think, and I did a whole in our menopause certification, I just did a whole call around creating an oxytocin plan because oxytocin is known as the love hormone. It really helps with weight loss. It helps with de-stressing, balancing out cortisol, all of these things for hormonal balance for women. But so many people don't have a feel good plan, right? We
Right.
always have this like a gym plan or a nutrition plan, but we don't have for our clients or for ourselves a self-care. I don't even like to call it a routine. I like to call it like a map, like doing my monthly self-care map, scheduling in
Mhm.
self-care for myself. That is things that I truly love doing. So maybe it's like I'm going to book a massage this month. I'm going to go listen to live music. I'm going to, you know, go to the spa, like whatever it is that for you is something you love that is tied in with self-care. And that's really something that you're treating yourself and you're doing it out of that self-loving place. It really will help you again with your weight loss journey because the better you feel, the more likely you're going to do more actions that are in line with your goals and that feel good to you, right? So if you're constantly
Mhm.
feeling like you're in a negative place, it's going to be really hard. So creating like a
Yeah.
self-care map for the month is so beneficial for your clients.
And I think too with the self-care thing is especially for anyone listening who maybe has a tendency of putting themselves last or putting themselves behind others. I know that this is very common for a lot of women is to sort of put, other people ahead of ourselves, ahead of our own needs. I just want to emphasize the idea that self-care practices like going to do a workout or going for a walk or going to get a manicure or whatever it is that is your thing or, just going to a park by yourself for a whole day, and just in nature by yourself, whatever it is. That is, I want to emphasize that that is something that is not, it's not selfish, it's necessary, right? It's not
Totally.
selfish, it is necessary. And so we need to, and I'm not saying you have to do this 24/7 all the time, but you want to have some sort of a self-care plan because if not, what's going to happen is we're just going to keep putting ourselves last and then this whole idea, this whole dream, this whole vision, whatever it is that you want to call it towards this end goal that you're trying to achieve, which is this balanced self-love state is just there's going to be missing pieces to it so you'll never end up getting to the place that you want to be. And so you really need to emphasize that this is like a really important thing and it's a non-negotiable for every single person listening. We need to have some sort of a self-care practice, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. And I know it's so interesting because again, really diving into my own self-love journey is like and doing that exercise, I highly recommend to everybody, like writing out the things that you truly like that really light you up. It's like, I like that, but do I really like it? You know what I mean? Like there's things I do. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I thought I liked that. I'm like, no. But giving that yourself the understanding of what are the things that you really, really enjoy to do. And then for me, I know over this time of being on my journey of learning that about myself, it's like I can see. So one of my biggest things, because my love language, which is also a really cool thing you can do if you're curious about what makes you feel good, is the five love languages test because we give and receive love in different ways, right? So for me, one of my top love languages is quality time. So that is part of my self-care routine is I need quality time with the people I love. I don't want to be rushing in and out. I want to be sitting having a meal with them, enjoying conversation, right? Like I want to hike and I want to laugh with my friends. So I can tell if I haven't had friend time in a long time, I start getting cranky. And my husband's like, go hang
Mhm.
out with your friends. Like, go have friend time.
Yeah.
because I need that. And I know that about myself. And I could feel now because I've done that self-awareness piece when that starts to come on. I'm like, okay, no, I've got to go schedule, you know, I'm going to go schedule a dinner with some friends, or I'm going to make that a priority. Because again, life is very busy, right? We've got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of people to take care of, a lot of stuff to do. And it's like that gets lost on the list. So I just think, yeah, understanding that is very interesting. Now, the last thing that I want to say about practicing self-love is using positive self-talk. Now, this is something that's really hard for people. And I know for me, this was really, really hard. And because there's this misconception about affirmations and stuff, right? Like this, like positive affirmations kind of became really popular over the last, I would say, like 15 years. And it's not about just being like, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, and putting up those quote cards, right? Because if you don't believe it, it will always feel untrue to you. And you can't talk yourself into loving yourself. So, one of the things I always tell our students is using the term instead of being like, I love my body, like going from I hate my body to just being like, I love my body, I love my body, I love my weight loss journey, I love whatever, because it's
I
not
love broccoli.
believable. Yeah,
Yeah.
having like a statement that's moving you in that direction but feels true to you. So, one of the ones I love is I'm becoming someone who loves my body. I'm learning how to love my body. Like, feel the difference even between like, I hate my body, I love my body, but you're like, but I don't love my body. So, I don't know what you're like,
Which are like
what are you saying to me?
total polar opposites of the spectrum. Like they're of one side
Totally.
and then the other. Yeah.
Like,
You're
even for me, it's
basically
like,
you're trying to convince your brain to like go from like one extreme to the other extreme overnight just by making a statement, and it doesn't work that way.
well, in our thoughts, right? Our thoughts create our feelings and our feelings drive our actions. So, if our thought is, I love my body, and the feeling we have is dishonesty, the actions we're going to take are probably not going to be in line with self-love, right? Because we're like,
Right.
I feel fake, I feel false, I feel like an imposter, right? Then you're like, well, I'm going to go do the things that feel true to me, which is hating my body and saying negative things to myself and doing all that. But even just like see how that feels to you right now. I'm thinking about it. Like if you're changing that thought to I'm learning how to love my body, it feels less pressure. It feels true. Like I don't right now, but I'm learning. And it
Yeah.
moves you into this kind of like lighter state of acceptance. It's more neutral. And that's kind of the feeling you always want to have when you're kind of doing affirmations or any, you want to get a feeling of it landing. Like we all, you know what I mean? It's like when I say like I am a mom, right? That's who I am, right? That's part of my self-concept. I'm a mom. And I think I'm a really great mom. So when I think I'm a great mom, that feels true to me. That has landed. But if I
Yeah.
think I'm a terrible mom, that doesn't feel true to me, right?
Yeah.
It's just even like, you know, I don't golf. I would never think I'm an amazing golfer. I would think I'm a terrible golfer, but I could think I'm learning how to golf. Do you know what I mean? Like that is an easier transition. It lands with me like, yeah, I'm learning. I'm in the process.
Hmm.
I'm becoming someone who loves myself. I'm becoming someone who has hit my weight loss goal. I'm becoming someone who can lead their own journey. Like that's such a, to me, it's just such a lighter, easier, and you can believe that you could practice that thought as opposed to keep trying to go to, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And you're like, but I don't.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't work.
You've got to find the true statement within it, right? It's like you could be wanting to lead to the point where the statement is, I love my body and I love myself. But if you're not there, and if you're not even close to being there, you've got to find the true statement in between. It's like the gray matter, right? Like the area that's in
Yeah.
between the black and white, because right now you're way over on one side and you're trying to make it to the other side. But the only way to get to the other side is to go through all the middle part. So find the middle part statement that makes sense for you, that relates to you, and then once it relates to you, hold that statement as your new truth. And then as that one feels really good and feels like, yes, 100%, this is it. And as you're going through the process, it could shift and change. And you could relook at that statement and say, okay, now could it be like, well, you know, now it's maybe I'm not still at the place where it's like, I love my body, but maybe it's like, I really appreciate what my body can do for me, or I love this process, or, whatever it is, but you want to be thinking about how can that keep shifting and changing and growing till you get to the place. But it's not going to be, nothing happens overnight. Nothing is going to happen just because you made a statement. That statement doesn't make it true. It's like your thoughts. Your thoughts are not facts, right? So
No.
you can't trust your thoughts. You can't trust what you're saying. You have to feel it. It has to be built into your like DNA. Like you've got to really like own that concept. And so to own the concept is like finding the middle ground. So find whatever middle ground that is for you as you're going through this process to say, this is where I'm going, but this is where I am today, and that feels right. And then hold that
Well,
truth
and yeah, and
in
if
a new
you,
truth.
and that's where, like, honestly, especially if you're coaching clients, just try that one on. Like, I'm learning how to, I'm becoming someone who, because
Yeah.
it sets you in your future self of where you're going, but also doesn't take away from where you are right now. And you're moving in that direction. And that's where too, and this is kind of the last thing that I just wanted to say about self-love and about this kind of practice is that it does take time, right? Like self-love to me is almost like you focus on it the way you would focus on changing your nutrition. It has to be one of the pillars in your weight loss journey. But as you start to go through this process, you will start to see the shifts and know that like it doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to suddenly be like, oh, I love myself. I'm now going to do things that are respectful for myself. It's a lifelong journey. And it's an amazing, amazing, amazing journey to go on is to really start to get to know yourself, like who you truly are, what truly lights you up, what makes you happy, why is healthy important to you. Right? Not because it's important to someone else, not because someone else tells you you should be able to run around with your grandkids till you're like, what is it about you that lights you up and that makes you want to keep going. And I feel like, I don't know, I think that this is where too, I've said this before on the podcast. It's like I'm always so grateful for my weight struggles and for my eating disorder and for all of it because I don't know who I would be without it because it sent me down this path of self-discovery and the things that I've learned about myself and having my own back and keeping commitments to myself and building self-trust. Like when I say something now, I know I'm going to do it. Like if I say I'm
Yeah.
doing something, I'm doing it. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's going to all work out, but I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to go to the gym, I go to the gym. I don't break commitments to myself. And it's such a beautiful thing because I have such a great self-trust and that comes from self-love. Because I love myself and I love like you wouldn't cancel on your friends all the time or your family members, right? But we
Yeah.
do it to ourselves. So it just creates such this beautiful relationship. So you have your own back and then you know how to start to take care of your health for the long term, whether it be your nutrition, your movement, your mindset, all of those things go into health. So just
And I just want to
give yourself
end, I just want
grace
to
and give yourself time.
totally. And I just want to end on this note because you were talking about time, and I actually saw this quote this morning. I sent it to you, I think, because I was like, oh, it's so cool. It's such a powerful statement. It was like a really quick video online that I saw, and it was Usain Bolt, and he was talking about how he's basically said, I trained for over 4 years for 9 seconds, right, for his
Yep.
for his race, and he said if you this is not exact quote because I'm paraphrasing right now, but basically it was I trained for 4 years for 9 seconds in my life. If you're just starting out, don't give up. It's like you could be doing this for 2 months and not be where you want to be on this journey, but just know it's coming. But you got to keep
Yep.
training. You got to keep working. And I just thought it related really well to what we're talking about because it's so true. It's like you might be at the place where 2 months in you're like I still don't feel that like self-love, and I still don't feel like I'm giving myself the respect I deserve or that I think I should be doing, or all of these things, and you get lost in those thoughts. Just know it's coming. You just have to keep training yourself over and over and over again. So I just thought
That's
it
why
was,
it's a
I'm
practice.
pretty sure I sent it to you this morning. Yeah, it was such a good video. I was like, oh, it's so cool. It's like so powerful and so perfect
But
because
it's
it's
like
so
you
true.
wake up one day, and that's the one thing that I can say with 100% certainty is, you don't feel the changes while they're happening, but one day you will wake up and you will be like, oh my gosh, I am a totally different person. A
Yeah.
scenario will happen, a moment will happen, and you'll see yourself the way with who you have become as opposed to the way you were. And you're like, I'm a totally different person. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that is our conversation today about self-love and adding a self-love practice, especially if you are on a health journey. If you are a coach and you're coaching your clients, make sure that you have these conversations. If you are leading your own journey, make sure you are having these conversations with yourself, because it truly is a piece that if you don't focus on, it can sabotage everything. And we don't want that for any of you guys. And of course, if you want to learn more about how to coach on mindset and self-love and all of those things, make sure to check out fitchexacademy.com. We always include mindset in all of our coaching certifications because it is a pivotal piece that so many certifications don't talk about. And if we don't get our mind in line, we're not going to do the actions we need to do to make the changes we want. So check out fitchexacademy.com and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.